As you know, Jesus is a good teacher, and one of the things that good teachers do is they use examples out of the circumstances of their listeners. And so in this story, as in like so many others, he took a situation, a story that they would have been familiar with, a wedding feast. The problem for us today is that we don't know a lot about first century wedding feasts. And so if you listen to this story and some of the details just seem weird to you, like you're not even sure what the 10 bridegrooms, or bridesmaids, what they were supposed to be doing. You get to the end of the story and the bit about, the wise ones won't share the oil, because you might say, well, why do you need 10 lamps to begin with? I mean, what's wrong with 5 lamps and 10 people? What's the issue there? And you might even ask yourself, like, midnight? Why would you start a wedding feast at midnight? And maybe there's something in all those details, but if I could just get you to put all those sort of odd questions to the side, I just wonder if we can take a step back and just look at some more general things and learn something this morning. I started looking at this parable this week from the point of view of the 5 ladies who did not bring oil. And it was like, well, what could they teach us? And the question that you have to ask is, well, why did they not choose to take oil with them? What are they thinking about in that moment? And I think there are 2 big possibilities. One is simply that it's not that they chose not to take oil. They did not even think about it. It was not on their mind. In other words, when that moment came when they're going to get their lamps and go out, they just picked up the lamp, looked at, there's plenty of oil, and just kept going. It never dawned on them that, yeah, maybe the bridegroom might be delayed, I might need extra oil. I mean, none of those thoughts went through their head. Some of you might know this just from a secular example of saving for retirement. You'd like to think that when you're in your, 20s, 30s, something like that, you're thinking about buying a new car, and you might say to yourself, okay, let me think about this, because I need to save some money for retirement, and so maybe the best thing to do is to buy a little less car, or maybe not buy this car this year instead of next year, and use that money to save for retirement. That might be a thought that would go through your head, and you'd figure out the right thing to do. But many of us know people that thought would never cross their mind. It just would not be there. And it's not that they're choosing not to save for retirement. They're not even choosing anything. They're just doing what seems reasonable in that moment. If you want to look for a spiritual example, I think you just don't have to look too much farther than asking yourself about how it is you decide what sins to bring up at confession. I don't know if this is true of everyone, and I don't know that you would think of it this way, but I suspect most of us, basically it's like we have a list. And, there are just certain things as we consider going to confession. We have this list of sins, and we sort of run through them and decide, yes, I've done that one. No, I'm okay there. And it's just this list. And we go through the list, get to the end of the list, and then go to confession. The question, though, is how long is your list? Or has your list gotten longer over the years? Because, you think back to your first confession when you were in 2nd grade. What was on the list? Not very much. I lied to, lying to your parents, disrespecting your parents, your teachers. I think that was it. That was it. That was the whole list. And I just wonder if now, even as grown-up adults, our list is not big enough. That much like the ladies who didn't even think about taking oil, there are things that you and I do that we're not even thinking about. And if someone said to us now, what about this? We just stare at them like, what are you talking about? I'll give you 2 simple examples. I don't know if they apply to you. One would be environmental issues. 5 years ago when Pope Francis wrote the encyclical about the environment, a whole lot of people did not read it, and a lot of people who read it seemed to ignore it. But one of the points that he made in that encyclical was that pollution disproportionately affects the poor. I mean, you would just know this from experience. Who lives near landfills? You know, rich people don't live near landfills because that property isn't very valuable, and so the poor live closer to those sort of things. And if you take the Pope seriously and you start to consider that, then suddenly you realize that, oh, when I start making some of these choices about, you know, throwing things out, waste, not recycling, any of those kind of things, you know, is it possible that I am sinning against the poor? But if that's not on your list, you don't even think about it. You just continue to live the way our society tells us that we should live. Or maybe you're one of those people that you get to the commandment, thou shalt not kill, and you just quickly go on because you haven't killed anybody. You haven't even thought about killing anybody. Same thing with stealing. Thou shalt not steal. I don't steal. I don't rob banks. I don't shoplift. I don't do that kind of stuff. And you just keep going without considering that sometimes when we put 10 fingers on the keyboard or 2 thumbs on the phone and we start posting stuff or reposting stuff, we are killing other people's reputations, and we are stealing their good name from them. I mean, I've seen a lot of that this week. You know, just accusations going around, you know, perfectly honorable people who are, you know, working in election offices and counting and doing what it is they are charged to do. And I don't know why it is that people choose to make these comments, but it's important for us to know that, you know, you gotta get past the fact that it's they. You have to realize that you are accusing a particular person of immoral behavior, illegal behavior. That's their character right there. But you have to wonder, people who post that stuff, are they even thinking about it? Is it they're kind of like these ladies, like, oil? Why did I need to bring extra oil? I'm like, no, this is okay. This is all right. I'm okay. Second possibility for these ladies is that they did know, you know, like they knew that I should bring oil. You know, it's kind of like the teenager who knows they got a test coming up, you know, the next day, and they really know they should study, but, you know, they don't want to, and they finally think about it, and it's like, well, you know, I paid attention in class, and the test probably won't be that hard, so it'll be okay. And they just see if they can get by. And that could have been the ladies. They could have, you know, well, I got a full thing of oil. Well, the bridegroom might be late. It'll be okay. And they just go. And again, if you want to bring that to a spiritual example for ourselves, maybe you don't have to look any further than forgiveness. You know, so many people, you know, they know that God wants them to forgive, and they say, no, I'm not forgiving this person. They hurt me too deeply, or I'm just not in the mood to forgive, or, well, maybe I'll forgive when I feel like it, maybe down the road. Well, that's what the ladies did. I know I'm supposed to take oil. I should do that. That would be a good thing. And then they chose not to do it. And then this is where things get scary, because I don't know about you, the end of this parable scares me. You know, it's not hard for me to think of stuff that I have a tendency to want to, you know, debate with the good Lord. You know, like, okay, I know you told me, but I really, you know, just want to have those kind of debates. But do I really want to be in that moment like these ladies were at the end and realize, oh my word, I should have done that. Like I really should have done that, because it's too late to do it now. Need to end on a word of hope for you, a little positive stuff. Just 2 things. If this feels a little biting to you, if it seems like the good Lord is saying to you, like He sort of did to me this week, that, you know, you want to think you're in the wedding banquet, but there's a part of you at least that is kind of still outside, just remember that God does not want you to be outside. God is not a vengeful God. He is not looking forward to that moment when he gets to, it's like, oh, finally, I get to get rid of these people and throw them out. That is not the God we worship. He wants all of us in the banquet. And that's why, parables like the parable of the lost sheep, when the shepherd goes after the lost sheep, Jesus and God, they're coming after us. They want to find us and to bring us back. So just remember that the good Lord is on your side on this. And second of all, he wants to help. This is not just entirely up to you and I. Because some of the issues that you and I have that, they're hard. Of course, forgiveness is hard. If you are upset about the election or anything else for that matter, and you're on social media, sure, it's hard to temper, your frustration perhaps. But I just think the good Lord wants to help and will help, but we just need to ask. I just wonder, if some people just need to, before they get onto social media, they need to pray. Father, sometimes I know I have a tendency to say things on social media that probably might not be what you would say. And so before I start reading posts and before I start, sort of getting frustrated, just help me. I would think the good Lord is willing to do that. Certainly the same thing is true of forgiveness. It's one thing to say it's hard to forgive. It's another thing to say, well, it's hard to forgive, and I continue to ask God to help me. Those are different things. So yeah, the story's scary. I don't want to be out in the dark. There's just no way I want to be out there. And I know God wants me in there. And so, I don't know about you, but especially when things get a little rough, I'm going to try and do a little better job of asking God to help me make my list a little longer so that I know that I need to bring oil and that I make the choice to bring the oil.